The paper tore with a sound that echoed through the auditorium like a gunshot. One moment I was walking across the stage, accepting my Bachelor of Science in nursing from the dean, and the next my mother had stormed up from the audience, snatched my diploma, and ripped it clean in half. Daughters should marry doctors, not become them, she announced to the stunned crowd of graduates, families, and faculty. This is what happens when girls get ideas above their station. The auditorium fell silent. 500 people watched as my mother stood there in her Sunday best, holding the pieces of my degree like victory flags. Behind her, my father rose from his seat and started a slow clap. Alone, the sound echoed pathetically through the silence. My sister Veronica filmed it all from her seat, no doubt planning to post it as another example of my embarrassing need for attention. My brother Marcus just smirked, probably thinking about how this would affect his chances with the medical student he'd been stalking. The dean, Dr. Patterson, found her voice first. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave the stage. I'm her mother. I have every right to stop her from making a mistake." "Security," Dr. Patterson said quietly. As campus security moved toward us, Mom turned to me with triumph in her eyes. "You can play dress up all you want, but you'll never be more than what you are. A girl who should be grateful for any man who'll have her." I stood there in my cap and gown, magna cum laude cords around my neck, nursing pin gleaming on my chest, and smiled. Not the forced smile I'd worn through 24 years of family dinners where my achievements were ignored while Marcus's C+ in biology was celebrated. Not the tight smile from when they'd refused to co-sign my student loans because nursing school is for girls who can't get husbands. This was a real smile, because she had no idea what I'd been planning. No idea what I knew. No idea that she'd just given me the perfect opening for my final performance as their daughter. "Thank you," I said into the microphone I'd just accepted my diploma. My voice carried through the sound system, clear and calm. "Thank you for showing everyone exactly who you are." Security reached us then, escorting my mother off stage while she screamed about ungrateful daughters and wasted investments. Dad followed, shouting about lawsuits and defamation. Veronica and Marcus slunk out behind them, probably already crafting the family group chat messages about my attention-seeking behavior. Dr. Patterson handed me a new diploma from the stack of extras. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. Are you all right?" "I'm perfect," I said, meaning it. "Could I have a moment?" She nodded, and I turned back to the microphone. The audience was riveted, phones out, recording everything. Good, I wanted witnesses. "I want to dedicate this degree to every daughter who was told she should shrink herself to make others comfortable, to every girl who heard marry rich instead of dream big, and to the patients I'll serve who deserve healthcare providers who fought to be here, not ones who married their way into proximity to medicine." The applause was thunderous. I walked off that stage knowing it was the last time I'd ever have to perform for my family's approval. But I wasn't done, not even close. See, the thing about being the family disappointment is that you become invisible. They didn't notice when I got a job at the same hospital where Dad had his minor procedure 5 years ago. They didn't pay attention when I mentioned doing my clinical rotations at Mom's regular clinic. They certainly didn't think twice about using me as their medical translator when they didn't understand their diagnosis. "It's just high blood pressure," Dad would say, tossing me his medication list. "Explain what these pills do." "Your thyroid levels are off," Mom would complain. "The doctor uses too much jargon. Make it simple for me." So I did. I explained everything. I took notes. I filed it all away. And when they made me their emergency contact and healthcare proxy, "Since you insist on this medical nonsense, might as well be useful," I accepted gracefully. They had no idea they just handed me the keys to their kingdom. The morning after graduation, I woke up to 47 messages. The video had gone viral. "Mother destroys daughter's nursing degree at graduation" was trending. My mother, who'd spent her life cultivating an image of Christian perfection, was now the face of parental narcissism across social media. The family group chat was in meltdown mode. "Mom, take down the video now. You've humiliated us." "Dad, this is defamation. I'll sue everyone who shares it." "Veronica, way to make graduation about yourself again." "Marcus, my girlfriend saw this. Thanks for ruining my relationship." I responded with a single message: actions have consequences. Also, I'm no longer available as your medical interpreter. Best of luck understanding your prescriptions. Then I blocked them all and went to work. My first shift as a licensed nurse was in the cardiac unit. By pure coincidence, or perhaps karma, my father's cardiologist worked there. Dr. Rodriguez recognized me from my clinical rotations. "Congratulations on graduating," he said, though I heard there was some drama at the ceremony. "Family doesn't always support medical careers," I said diplomatically. He nodded knowingly. "Your father canceled his follow-up appointment, said he doesn't need some overpaid pill pusher telling him how to live." I wasn't surprised. Dad had been non-compliant with his medications for years, convinced his high blood pressure was just stress from having an ungrateful daughter. He'd never followed the low-sodium diet, never exercised, never took his condition seriously. "That's concerning," I said. "His last EKG showed irregularities." "I know, but without HIBAA violations, there's nothing we can do if he won't come in." 2 months later, Dad had his first heart attack. Minor, but a warning. When the ER called his emergency contact still me because he'd never bothered to change it, I professionally informed them I was no longer able to serve in that capacity and provided Veronica's number. She had no idea what any of the medical terms meant, couldn't understand the discharge instructions, didn't know his medication history. Dad came home with a stack of papers he couldn't interpret and a daughter who thought cardiac catheterization was something about catheters. The second heart attack came 6 months later, more serious. This time Marcus was the emergency contact. Marcus, who fainted at the sight of blood and thought stent was spelled stint. Meanwhile, Mom's untreated thyroid condition worsened. The medication she'd stopped taking because it made her feel funny had been keeping her levels stable. Without it, and without someone to explain why she needed it, her symptoms multiplied. Fatigue, weight gain, depression, all things she blamed on my betrayal rather than her medical non-compliance. I watched from a distance as their health declined. Not maliciously. I would have helped if they'd asked, if they'd apologized, if they'd shown even a glimpse of recognition that I was a qualified medical professional, not just a disappointment with delusions. But they were too proud to ask the daughter they humiliated for help. Instead, they found a new doctor. Dr. Wells, fresh out of residency, eager to please. He didn't know their history of non-compliance, didn't push when they insisted they were basically healthy, didn't question when they said their previous doctors were alarmists. I knew because Veronica complained about it in Instagram stories, thinking her privacy settings were better than they were. Parents' new doctor is so much better, doesn't lecture them like the others, says they know their bodies best. A year after graduation, I was promoted to charge nurse. My colleagues respected me. My patients trusted me. I published 2 papers on patient advocacy and family dynamics in healthcare. The video of my graduation had become a case study in nursing schools about professional resilience. That's when Marcus showed up at my hospital. Not as a visitor, as a patient. 28 years old, presenting with chest pains and shortness of breath. The triage nurse didn't know he was my brother when she assigned him to my unit. I walked into his room to find him pale, sweaty, and terrified. "Sarah," his eyes widened. "You work here." "I'm the charge nurse," I said professionally. "I see you're experiencing chest discomfort. How long has this been going on?" "I don't. I need a real doctor." "You have one. Dr. Kim will be in shortly. I'm here to do your initial assessment." "I want someone else." I nodded. "I'll get another nurse. But first, are you taking any medications, any family history of heart disease?" He laughed bitterly. "You know Dad's had 2 heart attacks. You probably caused them with your stunt at graduation." Stress doesn't cause heart attacks. Untreated hypertension, high cholesterol, and ignoring medical advice does. "Are you taking any medications?" "I don't mean medications. I'm not old like Dad." I documented his words carefully. Patient refuses to provide medication history. Denies taking any medications despite family history of cardiac disease. Appears anxious and diaphoretic. Another nurse took over his care. His EKG showed the same irregularities Dad's had shown years ago. The same warning signs. The same genetic predisposition that ran in our family. The difference was I'd known to get tested early, knew what to watch for, knew how to manage it. Marcus didn't. He'd spent so long believing that medical knowledge was for people who couldn't marry into success, that he'd ignored his own body's warnings. Dr. Kim prescribed the same medications Dad should have been taking. Marcus left with discharge papers he didn't understand and a referral to a cardiologist he wouldn't follow up with because doctors just want to sell pills. The final piece fell into place 6 months later. Mom collapsed at her book club. Full thyroid storm, a life-threatening condition caused by severely untreated hyperthyroidism. Something completely preventable if she'd just taken her medication and followed up with her endocrinologist. She was brought to my hospital, but I wasn't working that shift. By the time I heard about it, she was in the ICU, and Veronica was hysterical in the waiting room. "Why didn't anyone tell us it was this serious?" she cried to anyone who would listen. Why didn't the doctors explain better? They had, for years, but without someone to translate medical speak into language the family would accept, without someone to remind them that their bodies weren't invincible just because they felt fine, without someone to advocate for their health when they wouldn't advocate for themselves. They'd ignored every warning. I visited once. Mom was stable but weak, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her in the hospital bed. "Sarah," she whispered, "you came." "I'm checking on a patient," I said. "Mrs. Johnson in the next room asked me to see if you needed anything." She started, then stopped. Even now, even like this, she couldn't say it. Couldn't admit she needed the daughter she tried to diminish. The doctors, they use so many words. "I don't understand what's happening to me." "Your thyroid condition went untreated for too long," I said simply. "The medication you stopped taking was preventing this. Now you'll need more intensive treatment and careful monitoring, possibly for the rest of your life." But I felt fine. Feeling fine and being fine aren't the same thing. That's why we rely on medical expertise, not just feelings. She turned away. "I suppose you're happy, seeing me like this." "No," I said honestly. "I'm sad. This was preventable. You had access to excellent care, medications, and information. You had a daughter who became a nurse. All the resources were there. You chose pride over health. Daughters should marry doctors, not become them. I remember. How's that working out for you?" I left before she could answer. Veronica caught me in the hallway. "You have to help," she pleaded. "You understand all this medical stuff. Mom needs you. Dad needs you. Marcus." I offered to help. At graduation, in front of everyone. Your response was to film Mom tearing up my diploma and laugh. We were just, it's family. "No," I said. "Family supports each other. Family celebrates achievements. Family doesn't tear up degrees because they threaten some outdated hierarchy. You made your choice. Now live with it." She started crying. "You want us to beg? Fine. Please. Please help us understand what's happening. Please translate the medical stuff. Please. I'll give you the same advice you all gave me when I was working 3 jobs to pay for nursing school. Figure it out yourself. Maybe marry a doctor if you need medical knowledge so badly." I walked away, my shoes clicking on the hospital floor I'd earned the right to walk on. Behind me, I heard Veronica sobbing, but I didn't turn back. 2 years later, I'm a nurse practitioner working on my doctorate. I specialize in patient advocacy and health literacy, teaching families how to understand and manage chronic conditions. My published papers on family dynamics and healthcare decisions are widely cited. Dad's on his 3rd heart attack, each one worse because he refuses to comply with treatment he doesn't understand and won't ask me to explain. Mom's thyroid condition has caused permanent damage that could have been avoided. Marcus is pre-diabetic and showing early signs of heart disease but insists he's too young to worry about it. Veronica reached out last month. Her husband, a dentist, not a doctor, much to Mom's disappointment, suggested she try to reconcile. She sent a long email about forgiveness and family and how everyone makes mistakes. I responded with one line, "I forgive you. That doesn't mean I'll forget or rebuild what you destroyed." Because here's what they never understood. I didn't become a nurse to spite them or prove them wrong. I became a nurse because I wanted to help people. But help requires respect, and respect requires recognizing expertise regardless of whose body it comes in. They wanted me to marry a doctor instead of becoming a nurse. Instead, I became something more powerful, a healthcare provider who understands that knowledge isn't about gender or marriage or maintaining hierarchies. It's about saving lives and improving health. Their medical records show what happens when you value prejudice over profession, when you'd rather stay sick than admit your daughter might know something you don't. Every untreated condition, every ignored symptom, every preventable crisis is documented proof that daughters should become whatever they're capable of becoming. And sometimes, what we become is exactly what our families need, but refuse to accept until it's too late. The diploma Mom tore up hangs framed in my office now, Scotch tape visible down the middle. Patients ask about it sometimes. I tell them it's a reminder that the most important credentials aren't the ones people allow you to have, but the ones you earn despite them. And the medical knowledge they mocked, it could have saved them. But you can't help people who'd rather tear up your degree than admit you might be worth more than they imagined. So I help the ones who will let me, and I let the others live, or not, with their choices. After all, actions have consequences, even in medicine, especially in families.